Treasury stands here today, looking forward to the future with finance and still held accountable for the aftermath with accounting. We're that friend right in the middle. We are the pragmatic one. I know that M&A and everyone has great expectations of what they want to do and what cash should look like. And we're going to grow revenue 200% organically. Great. Accounting has to actually dictate and tell us and be the scribe and tell us what the story is. But Treasury is that friend who sits in the middle who can tell you, we're not going to be able to do that with your lofty expectations in our current condition.
Before we start, I want to highlight the biggest challenge I've noticed in the Treasury industry. It's professionals finding it tough to build an impactful brand. That's exactly why I put together an ebook, Building and Managing an Impactful Professional Brand. It has helped over 100 professionals define their unique values and stand out in their careers. In this ebook, you'll find practical tips to build a strong network and sharpen the skills you need to succeed in this industry. And the best part? It's completely free. Grab your copy now by clicking the link in the description below. Welcome to this week's episode of the Treasury Truth or Dare podcast, where we challenge Treasury leaders to a game of insight and bold choices. Today, I'm honored to welcome Jeremy Reedus, a true powerhouse in the Treasury world. He has over 2 decades of experience, and he currently serves as the Vice President and Treasurer of Varo Energy Solutions. Jeremy has navigated the complex financial landscapes of some of the largest energy companies in the world, including Aramco. That gives him a truly global perspective on the Treasury profession. Throughout this conversation, Jeremy shares valuable insights into the evolving role of Treasury, the ever-critical function of cash management, and why networking across borders is a secret weapon for career success. But that's not all. Jeremy also reveals a surprising personal passion that took him to international bodybuilding competition. In classic Truth or Dare style, Jeremy will decide whether to share Treasury wisdom or take on daring challenges live. And after round 5, the tables turn and Jeremy gets to put me on the spot with a challenge of his own. Stay tuned as Jeremy makes his first choice, setting the stage for a session packed with Treasury truths, career-defining insights, and, as always, a few unexpected surprises. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey. I'm your host for Treasury Truth or Dare. Today, I'm honored to have as my featured guest, Jeremy Reedus. He's the Vice President and Treasurer at Varo Energy Solutions. Jeremy, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background before we dive in today?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you, Ernie. Quite frankly, the years have flown by. So I've been in Treasury for the better part of 2 decades, and it has been a ride. Now, I fell into Treasury, and I will say that I've worked for some of the largest and smallest companies in the world. Since I'm based out of Houston, it's always been in the oil space, and that has carried me around the globe.
Yeah, that's great. Some of the things we'll dive into, a couple of the companies that Jeremy's worked for. One of them is Aramco, and that's an absolutely fascinating company if you've never had the opportunity there. So let's give the audience a little bit of an overview how our podcast works in case this is our first episode. On Treasury Truth or Dare, we have 7 to 10 rounds where I ask my esteemed guest if they'd like to share a Treasury truth or experience a dare live. Then after a few rounds, I'll let them flip the script on me and ask me a dare to do live as well. So Jeremy, to get us started off here, would you like to start off with a truth or a dare today for us?
Let's warm up. I'll start with the truth, please.
All right. Can you share with us in which areas of Treasury you're most passionate?
That's a good warm up. I agree with that one. Cash management. Treasury management in general started off as the cash management profession. And for that, ultimately, it still is the most important component of Treasury. Quite frankly, not a single transaction across the world happens thanks to, let's say, a general ledger, thanks to a forecast. It actually comes down to handling cash. That's why the phrase is always still true. Revenue is vanity, margin is sanity, but cash is still king. And so I can tell you that I've had the privilege of working for Aramco at one point. And so it was the largest revenue generating company in the world. And moving that amount of cash around is actually mind blowing. So cash management, no matter how you cut it, no matter what you think about it, it still is the epitome and it's the central nervous system of a company.
Okay, that's fantastic. I love it. Share that all the time. I try and get people to go back to, what's our most important function. A lot of them are important. Cash management, control of cash, right? Optimizing our cash movements, and sometimes we kind of get away from that. So, uh, I love that passion, and we'll talk about this probably collaboration. What are your thoughts there?
If I had to add one thing, one CFO I worked for, he said basically, always know where your cash is. If you don't know where your cash is, then you need to update your resume because you're not going to be in treasury or finance very long.
I had a CFO. We wanted control of cash, had an acquisition. He asked me if I had control of cash. They had a stamp they used for checks. I brought it back with me, took it in his office, and said, "Here's control of cash." So that's how we did things. All right, let's go. Let's go to round two, Jeremy. You're going to go for another truth, or you're gonna go for a dare for us?
Yeah, I'm getting a little warmed up.
All right, all right.
I'll stick. You know what? Let's go for a dare. Let's try
All
a
right,
dare.
all right, all right. What's something that very few people know about you, especially your professional colleagues?
That is an interesting one. I'll go ahead and I guess I'll share it with the audience as well. So during my time in Saudi Aramco, and I worked in the Eastern Province, and I had quite a bit of free time in my hand. And so I decided to really hike up my fitness journey. So during my time frame, my 5 years there, I would identify some dates that were where the company had extended weekends or so, and I would travel. And in this travel session, I would actually go compete in bodybuilding contests across the globe. So I've had the opportunity to participate in Dubai, in Leicester, England, and Venice, Italy, and my last show was in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. So you can't tell anymore, but I used to be really, really fit. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being the oldest person on stage, but I'm still able to handle those 20-year-olds pretty
Yeah.
well.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I doesn't completely shock me just because you seem like a very disciplined person. So, absolutely. All right. Thanks for sharing. Are we gonna go back to a truth, or are we gonna do another dare?
Let's go to the truth.
In my opinion, and I've talked with this with my other guests, is with all AI trying to reshape our profession, so to speak, I think 2025 is a critical year for the Treasury profession. Do you agree? Why or why not? And what do you think we need to be focused on in 2025 in our profession?
I have to say, more than ever, the Treasury profession is essential. If you think back just 5 short years ago, we were in a pandemic. And as we were getting used to working from home, the first question that every CEO and CFO asked was, where's my cash? How do I access it? That is still the core function, as I mentioned earlier. But what happens is now the world has changed. So now you have tax functions and now you have different tax laws and regulatory. We have a war that's happened and we have sanctions that have gone around. Our supply chain has moved around. And as something I would say is that Treasury sits in the middle of this and has to navigate the waters and make sure that none of our cash is trapped in countries that are no longer our allies. I have to say the Treasury profession is so critical because the world is getting smaller. So as we continue to do global business, you have to be mindful of every jurisdiction and how things actually work. So there's no rest for the weary.
Yeah, I love it. I like to dovetail on that. We are the lifeblood of the company, and there's more and more areas where there can be injuries to our company, right? Through regulations and sanctions, so we can be bleeding cash or have cash, and we need to make sure our company is functioning, ready to go 24/7, 365. So I love that. All right, let's do one more round for you, and then I'll let you have a take at me. We're gonna go another truth or dare.
ambitious. I'll go with a dare.
What is the least favorite part of your professional life?
This is going to make some people upset. I have to explain to family and friends
Right.
that I'm not an accountant.
Uh,
And, and no offense against accounting
right.
whatsoever. CPAs, some of my best friends are CPAs. But I like to explain to everyone and use it in this timetable. Treasury stands here today looking forward to the future with finance and still held accountable for the aftermath with accounting. We're that friend right in the middle. We are the pragmatic one. I know that M&A and everyone has great expectations of what they want to do and what cash should look like, and we're going to grow revenue 200% organically. Great. Accounting has to actually dictate and tell us and be the scribe and tell us what the story is. But Treasury is that friend who sits in the middle who can tell you, we're not going to be able to do that with your lofty expectations in our current condition. And in essence, we make things happen. So no, this should not be booked toward this. This should be booked toward something else. So it is the part of explaining that I am not an accountant. I don't get too caught up on month end close. So those things are pretty challenging to say, but I will say it does give an opportunity, if nothing else, to be able to explain what we do and educate our entire enterprise and educate people. So that's kind of a glass half full approach at the end.
When I was in Treasury, I don't know if I did it on purpose. They banned me from posting on the GL, so I think I might have done that on purpose. So on that note, I'll let you go ahead and ask me a dare here and see what you can come up with for me.
Ernie, I love this because in this particular setting, I love your podcast because we get an opportunity to really actually show our personalities and so forth, and your personal side. Speaking from a personal aspect, where would you say was your best vacation and your worst vacation, and why?
That's a good one. So on the personal side, I would say best vacation was probably not the most glamorous vacation. It was probably a vacation that I was able to take with my family. We had a lot of activities on Myrtle Beach, so we were able to go like a whole week and find activities where we all got away, we all relaxed. I got to unplug from the office, so not very entertaining for most people, but those of us who have families, it's a magical time, and I'll never forget that. Worst vacations, I think there's probably a tie for those. I think whenever I try and dovetail a personal vacation on a conference or a business meeting, people probably don't. I probably don't have to say a whole lot more. So, and we can share on that. Travels, being stuck in the airport with your family, things just not going very well. So thank you for that question. That was a tough one for me. Okay, so let's go back to Jeremy here. You ready for a truth or dare?
Let's go for a truth.
I know this is we talked, of course, before. This is important to you, and this is something I always preach about. How is investing in networking within your department, company, and your peers, not only here but across the globe, how has that impacted your career?
Immeasurably. Immeasurably. I would say that my network has been one of the secrets to my success. Because quite frankly, Treasury is so vast and you are beyond borders, and there's no way to know every single thing. You cannot encounter everything. As a matter of fact, a couple of groups I am tied to on LinkedIn, they have been so helpful and instrumental in helping me solve problems. For example, I didn't have a deep understanding of how India banking works. And so I reached out to a friend who said, oh, no, this is what you have to expect. Same thing for different countries in Africa. And I do have my experience, but there's always someone who has a lot more granularity to it. So my network has been so overwhelmingly helpful to my career. And I believe that it's a give and take. And so anytime I have an opportunity to give back to people who've helped me, I certainly want to take advantage of it. And that's what I encourage everyone, especially in that treasury profession, is don't operate in a silo. Don't die by yourself. There's definitely other people who are experiencing that pain and frustration. And as I mentioned before, Treasury is this quirky little area inside finance that not very many people know about. And if we don't know about it, it's great to be able to talk shop with somebody else and to reassure yourself that you're not going crazy.
I love that. And one of the things that you said is I'm gonna just dive into another question because it fits together with another thing I like to talk about. What you teed up was, I think there's still a disconnect between the U.S. people and the U.S. Treasury and how we talk, and then the folks overseas. So you've been good about connecting people across the globe because we all get along, but we can do better about connecting. Just share with us a couple of the groups that you might be in, maybe touch on Treasury Masterminds or other groups where you've helped see and you're trying to get people to collaborate across the globe a little more.
So Treasury Masterminds, as you just mentioned, has been a great group. And like I said, if you go to their page, you can see a number of topics. And it's how treasurers really think. And it's not just being bean counters, which is some terrible stereotype. Who knows where it came from? But we're not standing in front of the vault. But in essence, you have a group of people who are like-minded, who are looking for answers as well on how to compensate for these challenges that are unfaced, that we've never faced before. That's one of them, corporate treasurers. And then one thing I always make sure I've done is that I learned with HTMA, Houston Treasury
Yep.
Management Association, which is a subsidiary basically of the Association of Financial Professionals, AFP, getting involved in my local chapters and talking to my colleagues on the practitioner side and the bankers, because it's great to get a local flair, but then also on those larger platforms, the Treasury Masterminds, talking to people in the Netherlands and Norway, how things get done. Like, for example, I found out just recently that there's an account, and there's certain banks in China that still require someone to physically come in to sign a signature card. And I thought we were well past that. That sounds like a 1990s issue. But it's when conferring with my colleagues on that side of the globe, yeah, this bank does do that. And so if you don't know these things, and if you're so, I hate to say it, just you're American centric, you kind of miss that and you turn your nose up everyone else. So it's good to actually be able to hear someone else give you the true answer. And it's not something you can just Google. You have to find someone to help you with that.
Right. And there are people that have been there, done that across the globe, and they're almost always happy to help you. Right. We all love this. We all love to share our war stories. And I've got my signatory account stories where I inherited things and I found out half the people were no longer on this earth with us. So we still have all those. That'll probably be another whole episode of Truth or Dare once we go topic specific. All right. I'm going to give you another chance to give me a dare here to add some spice here.
I would say, what was your worst job ever? I mean, this can go back to your first job, I don't know, as a teenager to all the way along. What was the worst job?
I have to be careful talking about companies because I'm known for not having a filter. I'll talk about the characteristics of my job. So I've had a job or two that I've really had to function in a way that's not consistent with my personality. So I would say I don't really have a business switch. So I've had a couple jobs that were a little bit political for my taste. So I've been in situations where I've been expected to hold my tongue, hold the line. And when someone asks me my opinion or asks me a question, I can't really give the answer that needs to be said. So I would say that would probably be the challenging situation for me, but it has helped me learn quite a bit how to focus on the delivery of my message and look behind me when I'm moving forward because I'm a hard charger. So it was very beneficial to me in the end, but at the time it was very painful to me and I had to find something where the culture was more consistent. So I would encourage people to look for a job that is consistent with your culture and your values and how you function and value others.
Outstanding.
All right, so let's go. Let's go one more round, Jeremy. What
Sure.
about what are we gonna do here?
Let's see here. What did I do last? I do a truth or did I do a dare?
I think you did
Uh,
might have done a dare, so
all right, let's go to a truth. Let's go back and forth, toggle back and forth. So I'll try,
okay.
I guess, a truth.
So let me ask you a truth. So you've had a lot of experience in managing folks across the globe. Can you share with us a few key lessons that you've learned that you wish you would have known, but before you had that opportunity?
That is an excellent question. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not sure if it shows up very well, but these gray hairs are functional. And so if I could go back to talk to the, lack of salt version of me, I would say to definitely understand and meet people where they're at. There is such a eccentric, egocentric portion of us that says, well, I'm the person, I'm in charge, and yeah, you should answer to what I have, and you should do exactly how I think and cater to my thought process. And that's not how things get done. Because quite frankly, you learn so much more from the people who actually are doing the product, the actual operation. I will say that I learned when we had a shared service center, I learned I inherited a team from my predecessor. My predecessor said, this is how you should work with so and so. This is how you should do it. And along the way, it just didn't feel right. Kind of like what you said. It just didn't feel
Right.
right to you, who your person is. And so I just stopped one day in the middle of a meeting as I was dictating orders. And I said, what do you think? They came back like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, like, what do you think? And Steve Jobs did have the quote of, we hire smarter people than us, and we ask them what we should do. And I decided to do that, and I took that on. And so after I killed myself for roughly a couple of months of just trying to have all the answers until finally I asked, well, what do you think? Because that is so empowering. And that team in this shared service center, and I'll toot my own horn of this, they had the highest reviews and they were
Yeah.
most enjoyed by their colleagues and they felt empowered. And so I had the lowest turnover everyone because they felt like, hey, my boss values me. So I would say from a global perspective and working with people is to ask them
Right.
really, what do you
Right.
think? Not the standard line,
Right.
but what do you think? And that goes a long way.
I love it. The most powerful question, or one of the most powerful questions of a manager. What do you think? So that's going to be definitely be a key takeaway for the episode. So I'm going to take you up on this. I'm going to ask you one more dare, and then I'm going to ask you one final question. So here's a dare for you. If you were trapped on a desert island from someone that you work with, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's terrible. I don't know. I'm be on a desert island with these guys. I will say, I'm not gonna actually. I'm man. I don't know. Is there a double dare? But I will say that I'll do this, and I'll say this in
Okay.
this instance, in this world we live in, where we are very hybrid, and sometimes we're mostly remote. And we don't get a chance to really meet people. I
Right.
think, as a matter of fact, we've come in contact at a couple of conferences
Yeah.
here and there, and that's been great. And because you get to put actual shake the hand of the person. For my past, I will say I've had great relationships with people, not in Treasury, but in other
Right.
departments, because we bonded over life things. And I
Sure.
learned from a tax agent so many things about tax that I will probably never, that I've forgotten and probably will never use. But we bonded over our kids playing basketball and to be able
Absolutely.
to talk about that and college experiences and shared experiences. And there are a number of people who are tied for that.
I
So,
got you. That,
uh,
that
so I,
makes
I
sense.
will just stick with just that personality, that
Right.
characteristic of being able to toggle between personal and business with no issue.
I love it. I tell people invest in getting to know people and let them get to know you. So that perfectly fits into that. All right, so I'm going to give you a chance to share one final thought with our viewers today. That you want to leave final thought with our viewers of the podcast. To make your impact.
I will say that this is something I've learned. Once upon a time, I had a boss tell me, he said, you can just be a treasury guy or you can do other things in finance. I remember that day going home and thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a treasury guy. Maybe I need to do other things. Maybe this is not a good enough function, or no one really cares about this. And it bothered me for a while. And then I realized being the treasury guy is perfect. The thought process is that someone can say, well, you're a jack of all trades, master of none. Well, I'd like to disagree with that. We are the master of learning how to work with the masters of their trade. As treasury is a central function of a company, it is, while most departments think of themselves as islands, treasury to me is Kansas, it's Nebraska, it's right in the middle, and it touches everybody and everything in some form or fashion. So I would say to my treasury practitioners and people who are new to it or people who are thinking about getting into it, it is a unbelievable ride where no 2 days are the same. And you will have a very fulfilling and career and personal life. As a matter of fact, as a witness, Treasury has taken me from here, the United States, to Saudi Arabia, to different parts of the globe, and it still continues to do well by me personally and professionally.
You almost made me speechless there. So that's probably the first time ever. So I love it. I'm going to use that all the time. I consider myself this year a brand ambassador for the Treasury profession. So I want to thank you for all that you do for the Treasury profession, Jeremy. So thank you for that. I really appreciate having you on as a guest. And finally, to all my listeners, live your Treasury truths and dare to be great in everything that you choose to do in your life. Till next time, everyone. Thanks for watching the show. I hope you guys liked it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned and hit the subscribe button for more.